right, our next speaker is the legendary Bobby Lee. Apart from having created one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world. By the way, do you know how hard that is? It's just incredibly difficult. Customer service is the biggest thing in one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world. But now he's going to help us understand how to use crypto and blockchain for business. Crypto runs deep in the Lee family, with Bobby's brother also creating one of the original cryptos, Litecoin. But Bobby's company recently started minting real, physical, beautifully presented Bitcoins you can own. Please put your hands together and welcome Bobby Lee.
Hello, good afternoon. So glad to be here. Very happy to be here in Half Moon Bay, first time here. Any Half Moon Bay natives? All right, probably not, but I used to live in the Bay Area. So I always ask the question, how many of you have Bitcoin? I'm going to assume that all of you do have Bitcoin. So the real question is, how many of you have actually done a Bitcoin transaction where you have the private key, you signed it, you actually send the funds out? Anyone here? Oh, good, good. I'm going to ask the same thing on Twitter. We'll see how many we get. So I'm going to talk about blockchain. Blockchain is a buzzword. Huge buzz and excitement on blockchain. You know, we're probably in the second or third year now about blockchain. And what I want to talk about is really why people are trying to sprinkle it everywhere on all ideas. So what is blockchain? Where is it applicable? How is it unique? And how you apply it to your business. But also how it's not to be used or misused, okay? And how it's related to Bitcoin. So it's a digital ledger. We know that it's a digital ledger. It stores information. It's immutable, append only. Immutable means that you can't change the past in the blockchain, but you can add to it. Used by multiple parties, we know that. Follows consensus rules. And of course, it's a new way to store and access data, right? Is blockchain a database? What do you guys think? Yes? And who thinks blockchain is a database? No one? Yeah, good. Who thinks database is a blockchain? Very different? What is it? Very different? Who thinks it's very different, like two different beasts? It's like cats and dogs. Cats and dogs, very different. Okay, so I'll tell you what I think, but before we get there, let's just do a technical mention of it. So blockchain came about in the 2008 Bitcoin white paper. That was I think in October, November 2008. We're coming up on the 10th year anniversary. Okay, the idea is that you have a block of data, and then you do a mathematical hash algorithm, which basically does a fingerprint of the data, and you put that fingerprint in the next block. So then the next block knows the last block what had this data, and that way, this is what guarantees that if it's been tampered with changed, then you know that it's no longer, it's no longer the same. That's why you can't change one block without affecting all the future blocks. Okay, and of course, Bitcoin uses proof of work as a consensus mechanism to decide who gets to add the next block into the blockchain. So the miners of the Bitcoin world do these computations, and then they gather transaction data, they pick out a set, they do the hash, and then put it on the next block. So that's been happening for the last 9.5 years for Bitcoin, and this is the blockchain. It's built out to be, half a million blocks so far or more, and it's been going once every 10 minutes or so. Now, how is blockchain different from a traditional database? So to answer the question earlier, I think I studied computer science at Stanford down the street, down the highway rather, and I took database classes. So in my book, a blockchain is a type of database, just like many other types, whether it's relational database, text file database, SQL Server and all that stuff. And then blockchain is just a type. But a traditional database have been around since the 1960s. And how is it different than a traditional database? Is that in blockchain, no one has root access. So root access means that someone has a master key, so therefore it has no master key. The idea that someone can someone or something or some organization can arbitrarily change anything in the database. So it's different in that sense, okay? So no one can single-handedly modify the data. So, and then also, more importantly, is that all the data is publicly accessible. So unlike a database which might siloed access to certain people, the blockchain is replicated worldwide, it's public, everyone can access it. So those are all the good things, okay? And of course, no one is authoritative source of data, meaning that the data that goes in has to be consensus driven, everybody has to agree to it. All right, Here's an interesting concept. Garbage in, garbage out. This is a phrase I heard. I spoke with an investor last week, had dinner, and he mentioned that. I was explaining to him. He's like, oh, yeah, you mean garbage in, garbage out. I'm like, exactly. Garbage in, garbage out. So what that means is if the data that goes in is correct, is pure and accurate, then that's what the outcome you get. But if you put garbage into the blockchain, then what? Garbage comes out. So the blockchain itself does not cleansify, or certify the data is correct. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Yeah? Okay, good. So, see, you don't need a computer science degree to understand blockchain. Are there different types of blockchains? Yes, there are. Why? Well, because people have different ideas. So again, on stage, I'm sharing with you my perspective of what blockchain is. And this question is, has blockchain term been misused? So I have the opinion that people, given over the last 10 years of crypto, I've been doing this Bitcoin crypto thing for the last 7 years. And over the last 3 years, we've had a huge influx of people from outside industries coming to crypto. Not all of them with computer science degrees, of course. But people have different definitions of blockchain. And I'd like to share with you how I see blockchain. And I think in some ways, blockchain, the term has been misused. Okay, so the two types, as you can guess, are the public and the private, okay? Now, I am biased here. I will say that the public blockchain is the real thing that was created along with Bitcoin in 2009, 2008. And the private blockchain, people talk about that, is a lookalike. It feels like it's the same thing, okay? Now, let's get a survey here. Prior to hearing me talk, were all of you aware of the two sort of private-public blockchain? Yes? Is this new to anyone here? No, not new? Okay, new? Good. Thank you for the honesty. Okay, so let's go in and talk about what is the difference. Okay, now, what I'm going to tell you is a bit controversial because I'm going to pour some cold water on this topic. Is that okay? Yeah? This is not China, right? Pour some cold water. Okay, here we go. Because in China, it's very sensitive. I don't want to offend any government officials. No Chinese government officials? Okay. Because they do go to international conferences. They do go. And then people tweet, like, oh my gosh, Bobby said this, at this American conference. Okay. Public blockchain. So this was the first. It was created as a successful implementation in Bitcoin circa 2009. Permissionless. This is a key word. I actually didn't, I guess I don't even know if this is a real word or they just jammed it together. But I didn't understand this concept until I got into this industry, until many years later. So I've been doing this for the last 7, 8 years. And only in the recent 3, 4 years did I really understand this concept. The idea is that people can participate in the Bitcoin blockchain without anyone's permission. So some of you may know I'm the board member of Bitcoin Foundation. It turns out that's not really important because we don't have the master key. Like you can mine Bitcoin, you can hold Bitcoin, you could buy, sell, you could own, you could throw it away, you could delete Bitcoin, you could install Bitcoin. You never ever need permission from me, from the board members of Bitcoin Foundation, because we're not even like the entity for Bitcoin. Does that make sense? So this is really key, permissionless, okay? It's global immutable, we know about that. And Bitcoin itself, the currency, is the native token. It runs inside the Bitcoin blockchain. Those are the units of account. Those are the amounts that gets updated in the ledger. Okay. Now, the consensus by global network, users, miners, and devs. So think about that. Users are the people, transacting Bitcoin, what I asked you earlier about signing private keys. The miners are the ones building the blocks based on the transactions that are coming in from the users. And the devs are the software developers who are writing the software to further Bitcoin, expand it, to add features, functionality, fix bugs, and so on and so forth. So it's an ecosystem. It's a very, very interesting ecosystem where 3 parties have a balance of powers and balance of responsibilities, okay? All right, so again, permissionless, okay? So that's public blockchain. I think most of you know what I'm talking about here. Now, in contrast, private blockchain, I argue, is very much like a traditional database. What I mean by that is it's either solo or group maintenance. So there is a concept of a master key. Think about that. If the blockchain that you are thinking of building or that you've built for your organization, for your company, for your business, for your project, has a master key, then I think I would argue it is a private blockchain. If someone or some group or some consortium can go in and decide how to arbitrarily change it without user input, without others, then you have a master key. And vice versa, if you are a private blockchain, either you have the master key or someone else has a master key, right? It's permissioned access. It means that the data that goes in is somehow has to be permissioned and be sanctioned because you are a member, you are a stakeholder, you are a partner of the group that launched that blockchain. So it is what they call the old boys club, right? And that's an expression. It won't be just old men, but the key thing is it is membership required, okay? And there is a consensus protocol because it's consensus by that group of a few, right? Nothing wrong with a few people in a group deciding something. By the way, nothing wrong with any of this, okay? Nothing wrong with traditional database. I love traditional databases, e-commerce, all the great companies, Apple, whatever, Amazon, $1 trillion club. They use databases. Lovely. That's how they get to $1 trillion, right? Nothing wrong with a master key, right? Amazon has a master key about what commerce items get shown on Amazon.com. Apple has a master key about what shows up on your iPhone and so on. Okay, so nothing wrong with consensus protocol and all that. And then lastly, the data authority, or actually second to last, authenticity is decided by the source and the author, meaning someone decides what goes in. And that could be a person, a group, a consortium, the CEO, the founder, or the CTO guy, or whoever. Okay, there is some trust thing to that person for data authenticity. And because the data is decided by a few, it turns out it's not necessarily verifiable. It's what they say. So we implicitly trust the source of the data. So if I launch my blockchain today, in the first block, I could say, the earth is flat. And I put it in there. Now, how many of you actually agree with me the earth is flat? Anyone? Any flat earth people? Am I the only one on stage? All right. Since I'm on stage, it's the truth. In my blockchain, the earth is flat. And if you put on my blockchain, you're agreeing with me. So the point is, it's garbage in, garbage out. So, okay, I actually don't believe the earth is flat. Don't misquote me. But implicitly, you trust the source of the data, okay? All right, let's move on. So in my word, so this is a controversial thing, and I put a question mark just to let you have some leeway here. Is this just a private database? What do you guys think? Yes? No? Okay, this is the controversy. See the controversy? People like private blockchains, but people don't acknowledge it's a private database. Right? Okay. Or are you guys asleep? Okay. So public blockchain versus private blockchain. So I was having dinner with my friend, the guy who said garbage in, garbage out. And we kept arguing, is the name important? So he'll say the name is not important. I'm like, okay, then don't call it blockchain. But he's, no. See, it is blockchain. But I'm like, if the name is not important, then don't call it blockchain. And I won't call it database either. We'll just call it whatever right? But he doesn't like that. He likes to throw in the word blockchain. And I suspect that he wants it because it has good marketing sort of catch. Right? So, I mean, that's how the world is, right? If you have a good marketing push for it, then maybe you twist it a little bit. So, public blockchain versus private blockchain, is the name important? Ask yourself that. So, because today I'm no longer affiliated with any company, so I actually don't have an agenda to push for any blockchains or anything. So, to me, I rather fall back to my roots as a computer scientist and say, hey, let's be authentic, let's be genuine about whether it's a private blockchain, a public blockchain, or a private blockchain that's more like a private database. Okay, all right, here we go. These are the summarized list of public and private blockchain. I'm not going to read this anymore. I'm going to go through it. Okay, so use cases: store value, digital currency, payment systems, smart contracts, crowdfunding on the public side, public blockchain, and the private blockchain, which is definitely useful as a database sort of. Banks, financial institutions, industry associations, stock market, clubs, regular businesses, okay? Let's move on. So here's what's interesting. This is the slide I want to share with you some personal insights, some really deep insights that I gathered, that I sort of came up with by myself, okay? So I did not read this in a book, but hopefully one day I might even write this into a book if it makes sense. If you guys all agree with me that Earth is flat. Okay. All right, ready? So okay, actually before we do, what can immutable blockchain store? Immutable means blockchains that cannot be, edited, right? So do we all want immutable blockchains? Yes? I think most people, when they say they want blockchain, they want the immutable aspect of it. And I agree. Immutable is a key aspect of blockchain. So what can that store? Well, let's think about this. Immutable implies no master key. This is logic, right? If you have a master key, then you can just go in and muck with it. Do you guys agree? Yes? Let me hear a strong yes. Yes, okay, all right. So next thing is, no master key means no central authority, no one in control. Yes? Okay, you agree. Thank you. This is fast. Okay, and then without authority, think about this. Without authority, the data for the blockchain has to be publicly verifiable and publicly and independently verifiable. Right? Authoritative data cannot be allowed. So it cannot be sort of what we cannot have in there is like subjective stuff. Like, is it warm in here? Is the room hot? Is it cool? Is it warm? That's subjective, right? Some people might think the room is too hot. Some people might think the room is too cold. Others might think it's just right. Okay? Now, do you guys agree? Okay, good. Easy. All right, now, some people didn't say yes. They're holding back. All right. Here's a key. It turns out, my opinion, is that all real-world information is subjective. Because 100% agreement is not possible. I'll give you an example. Is the background here gray or white? Is it black? Would you guys agree? Is there 100% agreement on something in the world? Think about it. Anything you say, right? Even the Earth is round. Yeah, is the Earth round? Yes. Is it a sphere? But the scientists will say, oh, no, see, it's a little bit flat on the south and north pole, so it's not a perfect sphere, da-da-da. So then it's like, oh, see, the Earth is flat on the North Pole, So that's why, with humans, with freedom of, speech, nothing is 100% ever agreement. So that's why everything in the real world, in my opinion, is subjective. Even the temperature of this room, or the temperature outside in Half Moon Bay, right? We could get very close, but we might have different degrees of like, is it 20, is it 68 degrees Fahrenheit? Is it 68.2? Is it 72.1? So there's no full agreement. So do you guys agree with me that the world cannot be 100% agreement? The world is subjective. Yes? Okay. Now, so in that sense, only self-referential digital information would qualify as objective data. Because anything about the real world, in that case, is not suitable to be put in the blockchain. Think about that. If you write anything about the real world into blockchain, whether this restaurant is good, is the restaurant expensive, right? Restaurant reviews, or temperature of Half Moon Bay, temperature of San Francisco Airport, or the air quality, or was there an earthquake recently? Even questions like that, there is no 100% agreement. And that's why, it can be gamed, okay? So only math. That's why with Bitcoin blockchain, the data that really goes into Bitcoin blockchain is just mathematics. It's just transactions saying this many Bitcoins got moved from account A to account B, and all the machines agree because it got signed by the private keys of account A, and it got sent to the address of account B. Done. There's no disagreement. Okay? So immutable, finally, conclusion, immutable means no real-world data. Okay? So think about carefully now. This is the last thing, okay? This is my last slide. So if your blockchain, your proposed blockchain, I don't care if you call it public or private or whatever, pure blockchain, if you have real-world information in there about your business, about your customers, about some products, supply chain data, if you have real-world information in there, I argue that it's not the blockchain you want. It's not truly immutable, or you have the master key, or it's not permissionless. It can be public. That's not hard. You distribute the computers, the blockchain data all around the world. It could be publicly, it can be updated. Nothing wrong with that. But it's probably not immutable, or you might have the master key. and it's not decentralized. Okay? So now my last question is, which one do you really want? So I pose this question to the audience. Do you actually want a public blockchain? Do you want a private blockchain? Or are you content with just a database for your system? Okay? So follow me on Twitter at Bobby C. Lee. Just at Bobby C. Lee. Thank you very much.